an introduction to how the maximum period of use and holding fees work under the 2025 SAG-AFTRA Commercials Contract. Hey there. Have you been wondering how the maximum period of use is calculated, how holding fees are paid and applied, and how non-consecutive use cycles work under the 2025 SAG-AFTRA Commercials Contract? Well, stick with me and find out how. With the 2025 Commercials Contract, the length of the MPU has increased from 21 months to 24 months. And the 2025 Commercials Contract has also changed the start date for the MPU. Previously, the MPU for the commercial started 13 weeks from the last day of production, excluding recalls and retakes, or on the first use of the commercial, whichever occurred first. Now, the MPU for the commercial begins 10 business days after the start of on-camera principal photography and runs for 24 months, simplifying MPU calculations. Why is this important? The 24-month use period aligns better with commercial use cycles and simplifies tracking and renewals. Next, we'll talk about holding fees. The amount of a holding fee is equal to a session fee, and the session fee also serves as the first holding fee. The first fixed cycle starts on the first day of employment of any on-camera principal, and the session fee acts as the first holding fee. Thereafter, a holding fee is due every 13 weeks and is paid and credited against linear and/or streaming use cycles and/or traditional digital use cycles if linear and/or streaming use has occurred. All right, our next topic, non-consecutive use cycles. For commercials produced under the linear and digital side of the contract, which includes streaming, holding fees are automatic. As a result, non-consecutive use cycles are always permitted while the spot is active, and holding fees are still being paid to the performers. For commercials that are produced under the digital-only side of the contract, which includes traditional digital with paid YouTube, gaming, augmented reality, or AR, virtual worlds, and emerging platforms, but not streaming, holding fees are not automatic. As a result, non-consecutive use cycles are not automatically permitted. For traditional digital and traditional digital with paid YouTube, producers can only use a commercial in non-consecutive cycles if they pay holding fees, which may not be applied toward use. For gaming, AR or virtual worlds, and emerging platforms, holding fees for non-consecutive use cycles may be freely bargained. For commercials that are produced for linear and digital, here are some examples to consider. Imagine the first day of on-camera principal photography is August 19th. The first fixed cycle starts August 19th. The MPU begins 10 business days later, which is September 3rd, since Labor Day falls on September 1st. And a holding fee is paid on November 18th, 2025. Then, 1 year of national cable is purchased on December 15th. The November 18th holding fee is applied against the December 15th use payment, and the next holding fee would be due on November 18th, 2026, as holding fees are included in the 1-year use cycle. Here's another example. The first day of on-camera principal photography of a commercial is August 19th. The MPU begins on September 3rd, which is the 10th business day from the start of on-camera principal photography. An advertiser pays the holding fee on November 18th for the next fixed cycle, which begins on November 19th. They then purchase 4 weeks of national cable on January 1st. The holding fee paid on November 18th is applied against the January 1st use payment, and the next holding fee would be paid on February 18th for the next fixed cycle, which begins the next day. In simple terms, this means in order to retain the rights to use a commercial during the MPU, a performer must receive a holding fee every 13 weeks after the first fixed cycle. Those holding fees are then applied against all use, regardless of cycle length for most media types, and paid to the performer before the next fixed cycle begins. For commercials that are produced under the linear and digital side of the contract, holding fees may not be credited against use for traditional digital and/or traditional digital with paid YouTube unless and until linear and/or streaming use is purchased. Here are a few examples. When a commercial launches on Class A and traditional digital for 1 year on the same date, those 3 holding fees may be applied and credited against use. Also, when a commercial launches on linear and/or streaming, holding fees may be applied to the linear and/or streaming use cycle. When the linear and/or streaming use cycle is completed, holding fees will continue to be due for the remainder of the MPU. If an advertiser decides to purchase a traditional digital use cycle, the holding fees may be applied even if the traditional digital cycle does not overlap with the linear and/or streaming use cycle. In a third example, if a commercial launches with 1 year of traditional digital, holding fees must be paid every 13 weeks. After the first holding fee is paid, let's say that 1 year of cable is also initiated. The following holding fees can then be credited. Next, a commercial launches on linear or streaming with 1 year of traditional digital, and a holding fee is paid. The advertiser decides they have no further use for the commercial other than traditional digital, so the advertiser purchases an additional year of traditional digital and elects to release the performer from further exclusivity by not paying additional holding fees. Lastly, a commercial is launched on traditional digital and a holding fee is paid every 13 weeks. Then, during the third fixed cycle, cable is initiated. The next holding fee can now be applied toward use payments. The changes to MPU apply to commercials that commenced production or that are renewed on or after April 1st, 2025. The changes to holding fees apply April 1st, 2025 to all commercials, regardless of when they were produced. We hope you're able to walk away with a bit more knowledge about how maximum period of use, holding fees, and non-consecutive use cycles work under the 2025 Commercials Contract. Please feel free to reach out if you have questions about these terms or anything related to the 2025 Commercials Contract.